Some parents punish their children by taking away their phone. Some ground them. Some yell. My father chose fire. And the night he burned my belongings to teach me a lesson was the night he unknowingly created the woman who would one day own everything he stood on. If you've ever been hurt by the person who was supposed to protect you, stay with me. Because this story is not about revenge. It's about survival. My name is Claire, and this is where it all began. I grew up in a quiet suburban neighborhood in the Midwest, the kind with trimmed lawns, American flags on porches, and neighbors who waved but never really knew you. From the outside, our house looked normal, solid, safe. Inside, it was a war zone disguised as discipline. My father believed fear was respect. He believed obedience was love, and he believed breaking me would somehow build character. My mother used to say, that's just how he was raised, as if trauma were an inheritance you had no choice but to accept. I learned early how to be small, how to walk quietly, how to read the air when he came home, whether the slam of the car door meant silence or punishment. I was 17 the year everything burned. It started with something stupid, something small. I stayed late after school, not partying, not doing drugs, not sneaking around with some guy like he always assumed. I was at the library, working on a scholarship essay, one I hoped would get me out of that house. My phone died. I didn't call. When I walked through the front door, it was already too late. My father was sitting in the living room, arms crossed, jaw clenched. The TV was off. The silence screamed. "Where were you?" he asked. I told the truth. He laughed. "Lying already? You think I'm stupid?" That was the thing about him. Truth never mattered. Control did. I tried to go to my room. He stood up. "You don't walk away from me." And that's when he said it. "You think you can disrespect me? I'll teach you a lesson you'll never forget." I didn't know what he meant, not until I smelled smoke. By the time I ran outside, my knees shaking, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out, it was already happening. A trash barrel. Flames licking the night sky, ash floating like snow. Inside that fire, my life, my clothes, my notebooks, my childhood drawings, my laptop with every essay I'd ever written, letters from my grandmother who had passed away, photos, memories, proof I existed. I screamed. I begged. I dropped to my knees in the grass and cried so hard I couldn't breathe. He stood there, calm, controlled. "This is what happens when you disobey me," he said. "You'll learn." I remember thinking, this man does not want to teach me. He wants to erase me. That part hurt more than the fire. She stood in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, eyes wet, but she didn't move, didn't stop him, didn't speak. Later, she would whisper, "I'm sorry," as if apology could unburn a life. That night, something inside me broke, and something else was born. When the fire died down, he turned to me. "Pack what's left. You're not welcome here tonight." I laughed. A hysterical, broken laugh. "There's nothing left." He shrugged. "Not my problem." I left with a backpack, a cracked phone, and a heart full of ashes. I slept on a friend's couch that night, staring at the ceiling, smelling smoke that wasn't there. That was the first night I understood something terrifying and freeing. No one was coming to save me. My father thought fire would scare me into obedience. He didn't realize fire also forges steel. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flames. Every time I doubted myself, I remembered his voice telling me I was nothing. And slowly, quietly, painfully, I decided I would become everything he said I couldn't. Not to hurt him, but to survive. No one tells you this part. They tell you to stay strong. They tell you everything happens for a reason. What they don't tell you is how humiliating survival feels when you're doing it alone. The first night on my friend Jenna's couch felt temporary, like a pause, like I'd be back home once my father cooled off. By the third night, I stopped lying to myself. My backpack sat by the door like a reminder. You don't belong here either. Jenna's mom was kind, but kindness has a limit when it's not your child eating the food, using the shower, breathing the air. On day 6, she pulled Jenna aside. I didn't hear the words, I saw the look. That was enough. I rotated between friends like borrowed furniture. 3 nights here, 1 night there. Sometimes sleeping in my car when no one answered my texts. I learned to brush my teeth in gas station bathrooms, to wash clothes in sinks, to smile at school like nothing was wrong. No one wants to be friends with the broken girl. No one knows what to say to a teenager who smells like smoke and silence. I stopped talking about my father. People got uncomfortable. I stopped crying in public. People stared. I worked my first job at a diner off the highway. Minimum wage, late shifts, grease under my nails, feet aching before the clock hit midnight. Sometimes the cook slid me an extra grilled cheese. I never said thank you. I didn't trust my voice not to crack. There were nights I counted quarters in my palm, trying to decide between gas or food. There were mornings I drank water to silence my stomach. And still, I showed up, because hunger is temporary. Going back to that house felt permanent. Homelessness isn't just about not having a roof. It's about not being chosen, not being anyone's priority. Watching families laugh in booths while you refill their coffee. Seeing fathers hug daughters and wondering what it feels like to be protected instead of punished. Some nights I sat in my car and screamed. Other nights I sat in silence, too tired to hurt. That's when the thoughts came. Maybe he was right. Maybe I deserved it. Maybe I was ungrateful. Trauma has a voice, and it sounds suspiciously like your abuser. Her name was Miss Alvarez, my guidance counselor. She noticed I was staying late, not studying, just avoiding night. One afternoon, she asked, gently, "Claire, where are you going when school ends?" I broke, right there in her office. I told her everything. She didn't flinch, didn't interrupt, didn't defend my father. She said 6 words I will never forget. What happened to you was wrong. She helped me apply for emergency housing, connected me with resources, found me a donated laptop. It wasn't a miracle, but it was a rope, and I held on with everything I had left. I graduated quietly. No parents in the audience, no celebration dinner, just me, standing in a cap and gown that didn't quite fit, holding a future that scared me as much as it excited me. I didn't go back home. I didn't call my father. Neither did he. That silence, it hurt, but it also healed, because every day without him was a day I learned who I was without fear. They say success is the best revenge. I disagree. Freedom is. And the moment I stopped trying to prove my worth to the man who broke me was the moment my life finally began to rise. I moved into a tiny shared apartment, 2 roommates, 1 bathroom, and walls so thin I could hear their alarms in the morning. But it had a lock on the door. That mattered. I worked mornings at the diner and evenings at a retail store. On weekends, I cleaned offices. Sometimes I slept 4 hours a night. People called it hustle. To me, it was survival with direction. Every dollar I saved felt like a brick in a wall between me and my past. I enrolled in community college, not because it was glamorous, because it was possible. I sat in the front row, asked questions, treated every class like it was my way out. While other students complained about assignments, I thought about fire, about ash, about losing everything once and refusing to ever be that powerless again. A professor noticed, then another. Opportunities don't arrive loudly, they whisper to people who are paying attention. I landed an internship. Nothing fancy, a small firm, long hours, low pay, but it was clean work, respectful work. The first time someone said, "Claire, we trust you with this," I had to step into the bathroom to breathe. Trust still felt foreign, but I was learning. I blocked my father's number. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I realized something important. Closure does not come from apologies. It comes from boundaries. I stopped waiting for him to realize what he'd done. Some people never do, and that's not your failure. There was no dramatic transformation montage, just consistency. Paying bills on time, buying furniture piece by piece, replacing survival clothes with confidence. I learned how to sit in meetings without shrinking, how to speak without apologizing, how to exist without fear. The little girl he tried to erase, she was gone. In her place stood a woman he would not recognize. When the promotions came, they felt quiet. No fireworks, no cheering crowd, just a steady sense of, I did this myself. I bought my first car, signed my first real lease, opened a savings account that didn't hit zero every month. Stability is underrated. Peace is addictive. Years passed. Then one afternoon, a coworker mentioned a property listing, a house going into foreclosure. Something about the address made my chest tighten. I laughed it off. Some ghosts don't need invitations, but fate doesn't care what you're ready for. I didn't recognize the address at first. I recognized the feeling, that tightness in my chest, that sudden urge to look away. Some places remember you, even when you're trying to forget them. The house came up during a real estate meeting. Foreclosure, below market value, good investment potential. I pretended not to care, but that night I searched the address, and there it was, my childhood home. Same driveway, same backyard, different energy. The lawn was overgrown, the paint chipped, the windows dull. Time had not been kind to it, neither had life. I told myself it was just business, a smart financial move, but deep down, I needed to see it. Not to hurt him, to face the place that once owned my fear. I submitted an offer through a holding company. No names, no emotion, just paperwork. When the approval came through, my hands shook. I was officially buying the house where my father burned my life. The first step inside felt unreal. The smell was different, but the memories weren't. The living room where he used to sit in silence. The hallway where I learned to walk quietly. The backyard. I froze. That spot, where the fire had been. The grass had grown back, but my chest still burned. I didn't cry. I stood there. Calm, steady, grounded. I wasn't that girl anymore. A week later, I reviewed final documents. My father. Life has a sense of irony that borders on cruel poetry. He had lost the house. Debt, poor decisions, isolation. And he had no idea who was buying it. Not yet. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Hello? Silence. Then, Claire? My name sounded smaller in his mouth. We hadn't spoken in years. I hear you bought a house, he said, cautious. I smiled. Yes, I did. He cleared his throat. I need to talk to you. People think the moment you face the person who broke you, you either scream or forgive. I did neither. Because real power doesn't raise its voice, it decides. We agreed to meet at the house. Not a cafe, not a lawyer's office. The house. I arrived early. I wanted to stand there alone first, to remind myself that the girl who once cried in this yard no longer lived here. When his car pulled up, my heart didn't race. That surprised me. He stepped out slower than I remembered. Older. Smaller. Life had taken its toll. For the first time, he looked unsure. We stood on the porch, the same porch where I used to wait, scared to open the door after school. I didn't know it was you, he said finally. I know, I replied. Silence stretched between us. Then he asked, quietly, why did you buy it? I didn't answer right away, because the truth wasn't simple. I didn't buy this house for you, I said. I bought it for me. His jaw tightened. I needed to walk through it without fear. I needed to stand where you tried to destroy me and feel nothing. He looked away. For a moment, I thought he might apologize. He didn't. And somehow, that no longer mattered. I didn't mention the nights I slept in my car, the hunger, the shame, the years of therapy it took to unlearn his voice in my head. I didn't list his sins. I didn't need him to understand. Healing doesn't require permission from the person who hurt you. I'll give you time to move your things, I said, calmly. Legally. Fairly. He nodded. No anger, no drama, just consequences. As he walked away, I realized something that shocked me. I felt no satisfaction, only relief. After he left, I walked through the house one last time. Then I locked the door. Not because I owned it, but because it no longer owned me. I sold the property months later, used the money to invest in my future. A future that didn't smell like smoke. Fire can destroy, but it can also reveal what survives. My father thought he was teaching me a lesson. He did. He taught me that love without safety is not love, that silence can be strength, and that you don't need revenge to win. You just need to keep going. If this story moved you, like the video so others who need it can find it. If you've ever rebuilt yourself after being broken by family, comment your story below. Someone reading needs hope today. And subscribe for more powerful stories about survival, strength, and rising without bitterness. Because sometimes the greatest comeback is peace.